The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harborough again, everybody. Now we're going to end this week with a pair of twins which I'm going to walk continuously. I'm going to do them both together. One is a Magna, the other is a Parva, and those are Latin terms which we're very familiar with by now, aren't we? Now this first one is Magna, and behind all that sort of hedging and foliage over there is the biggest landmark in this place. It's a massive timber yard. You'll find it in Claybrook Magna. Claybrook Magna, Claybrook Large. To finish this run of Harborough parishes this week, we have a set of twins which I'm going to cover on one continuous walk. These are the Claybrook villages, Claybrook Magna and Claybrook Parva. They both sit on the western boundary of Harborough, close to the county border with Warwickshire. As we know from previous experiences with places called Magna and Parva, one means large and the other means small. That's exactly what we find here. Although not groundbreakingly massive, Claybrook Magna is still the larger of the two villages, and the more northerly too. Once a simple little agricultural village reliant on framework knitting, the surrounding farmland and the watercourse to its east, Claybrook Magna would become much more of an industrial settlement thanks to its timber yards. Throughout the 20th century, there was an occupational shift from agriculture to timber production, and the face of the village would alter completely. At first, Claybrook had Coltman Brothers, a timber firm that's still going today, based at the old railway station site in Ashby Magna. The site of their woodyard here has now been built over with housing, but timber is still very much handled in Claybrook. Whitmores Timber, founded in Suffolk in the 1890s, relocated to Leicestershire in 1972. Today, it's their yard that dominates the centre of the village on the other side of Main Street from Coltman's original works. Many locals who are still here today worked in these woodyards and enjoyed great times in the Woodcutter pub before it burnt down. Let's check out Claybrook Magna and see what it's like today. Claybrook Magna looked like this in 1900. Although not massively dissimilar to the modern village with regards to its layout, it is vastly different when it comes to its contents. Once just a rural farming village with its focus firmly on agriculture and framework knitting, Claybrook Magna was surrounded by fields, with the nucleus of settlement being just one main road. Whilst that road is still the backbone of the Claybrook villages, there has been some expansion to both the east and the west. In addition, a huge chunk of the fields to the west have been obliterated by the presence of a massive woodyard. Timber production has been a thing in Claybrook throughout the 20th century. In addition to the active woodyard, there was once an older woodyard run by Coltmans, but that's now an area of housing called Roman Close. Before we look closer at the village itself, first we have to get there. Coming from Frolsworth, you cross the border here at Claybrook Magna Mill. If you drive past this today, you'd probably do well to even know there was a mill here. But there is, and it's still harnessing the power of the water it stands on. Claybrook Magna Mill is one of 7 Grade 2 listed buildings within the parish. 2 of the other 6 are also within the mill complex. Much like the other mills we've been covering this week, Claybrook's effort was built in the mid-18th century, 1763 to be precise. It was later extended in 1840. However, milling in Claybrook has been going on for much longer than the mid-1700s. Ancient records would suggest it's been going on for around 1,000 years. On a site adjacent to the current watermill was an ancient windmill, which was mentioned in the Domesday Book. That, though, has long gone. At Claybrook Magna Mill, most of the machinery is still intact and the place continues to be in commercial operation. It grinds flour on French burr millstones, which are still driven by water power to this day. There's no electric grinding going on here. If you visit the mill's website, it will tell you that it's situated where the Roman roads of Watling Street and the Foss Way cross. That's not strictly true, they meet on the other side of the main village. Claybrookes Magna was your typical linear village 125 years ago. It didn't have a lot, but as you can see, it did possess a pub called the Bull's Head, and a chapel too. There used to be 3 pubs here in fact, but only the Bull's Head is shown on this map. The chapel is now gone, and it had a completely different use before it met its demise. Let's get this walk started on a street called Woodcutter Lane. This is a brand new housing estate that was only built within the last 15 years. It's a pretty bog standard one as new builds go. It consists of 2 main roads, Woodcutter Lane and Sawmill Place, and it also has a small play area. The children's playground could claim to be the newest facility in the village. The equipment was totally replaced with brand new items in 2022. New pathways were added at the same time to make the picnic areas easier to access for disabled visitors and those with pushchairs. Now this is all bang averagely modern, but we wouldn't be on this estate if it didn't have some sort of historical interest. The street names are a big giveaway. They are so named because right next door to this estate is Whitmores Timber, a company that was founded in the 1890s and relocated to Leicestershire from Suffolk in 1972. So let's see the timber yard, and we don't have to go very far. Whitmores is practically unmissable. Its site is huge, occupying a good chunk of the land to the west of the village cluster. Whitmores Timber serves many markets nationwide, from construction, joinery and restorative work to furniture production and even boat building. When their original site in Bury St Edmunds was bought by the Ministry of Transport, the company looked to the Midlands to find a new home. They struck lucky with Claybrookes Magna. Being located close to the A5 and the M1 is a massive advantage for these guys because they offer nationwide delivery from this, their new Leicestershire base. Whitmores Timber is a long-standing importer and distributor of European, American and tropical hardwoods, and they know how to use them. The company was founded by T.G. Whitmore, originally a blacksmith and a wheelwright. It was his son, Austin Whitmore, who started milling homegrown round logs. Before long, those logs were in demand, and by some pretty notable customers. For example, in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, there's a 4-foot-long oak beam supplied by the company. At the Old Bailey in London, the main doors there are also the work of Whitmores. They were installed in 1958. Also in London, the Globe Theatre contains Whitmores wood. Where this timber yard now is, there used to be a chapel, but we already know that because we saw it on the map. Until it was demolished in 2010, the chapel, which fell out of use some years before, was used to store some of Whitmore's wood products as well as machinery. Long before Whitmores came along, Claybrook was already producing timber. A little further around this route, we'll talk about Coltman Brothers and their involvement with wood here. Now, my long-time followers know that sometimes I don't film things quite in order, and I've done a really weird thing here, you might think, but it actually makes a bit of sense when you think about it. What we've done is we've gone up to the timber yard, and then I've turned around and come back to this junction here. This is where Bell Street meets the main road that we're walking up. And where you find that junction, you find these houses here. Now, these also had a big connection to the timber yard. Let's discover what that connection was. Opposite the woodyard, you'll see this row of newish houses. I say newish because they've been here for at least 15 years, if not a little longer. They're known as Bellevue Court. They take their name from the Blue Bell Inn, a former pub. Rather ironically though, they stand on the site of a different old boozer. This was the location of the Royal Oak, which in its later years became the Woodcutter, taking its name from the timber yards that literally surrounded it. It would likely still be here now if it hadn't have burned down in the middle of the night some years ago. The pub was one of 3 in Claybrookes Magna, only one now remains. A bit further up the street we come to the village hall. This is a traditional Victorian building which has been modernised in recent years to offer facilities for social and sporting events. It can accommodate up to 100 people in the main hall, and it also has a smaller meeting room which has space for up to 30 people. This is used on the regular by local groups including Keep Fit classes and yoga, as well as events for the WI, crafters, first responders and coffee mornings too. In the past, it's hosted celebrations for VE Day, the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and there was also a celebration to mark the coronation of King Charles III. To the top of the village now, and here we have the former Bull's Head pub. This is the only one of the 3 in Claybrook that's still going. It was historically owned by Sydney Evershed Limited of Burton-upon-Trent, a brewery which merged with Marston's in 1905 and closed in 1908. The Bull's Head changed its name in 1997. This is now the beautifully named Pig in Muck, and if you walk through the doors of this place, I imagine you will be happy as one. A traditional and friendly village local, the Pig brew their own beer in a small brewery behind the main building. The drinks they produce are known as Pig Pub Beers. The brewery has been going since 2013, and the owners even allow the public to see how the beer is brewed. The cask-conditioned beers, which are all served within the pub, can also be found at a sister pub located in Leicester city centre. This one's also locally famous for its food. It's all extremely popular, but especially so is the carvery offered every Sunday and Wednesday. In case you couldn't read that milepost there, the 2 locations on it were Hinckley and Lutterworth. We're 5 miles from one and 6 from the other. Now then, we've got a bit of walking to do around some residential areas next, and this gives me a chance to drop in a little story about a semi-famous man who used to live in this very village. It doesn't have a happy ending though. So now it's time to start making our way back south again, and it's all residential for a bit. As such, here's a mention of Barry Evans, a former resident of the village. He was an actor, known for his appearances in the sitcoms Mind Your Language and Doctor in the House. In 1997, he was found dead at his home in Claybrook Magna. A youth was charged with attempted murder, but later released, and the coroner issued an open verdict. The exact circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery to this day. The coroner found a blow to Evans's head and high levels of alcohol in his system. A short will was found on a table next to his body, and a split packet of aspirin tablets was found on the floor. That bore a pre-decimalisation price tag, making it older than 1971 and more than 26 years old. However, the coroner concluded he hadn't taken any. Evans was cremated at Golders Green Crematorium. A blue plaque commemorating Evans can be found at number 8 Buckland Crescent in northwest London, where he once lived. Next, we go up a cul-de-sac called Roman Close, which is a reference to the crossing point of the Fosse Way and Watling Street, right on the edge of the village. They meet at a hamlet called High Cross, just outside Claybrook Magna. Stick around for tomorrow's episode, because we'll get a look at High Cross on our way out of this area. Roman Close is also historically important to Claybrook Magna for another reason. This street is built on the site of the original woodyard, run by Coltman Brothers. Here's a bit about them. Raymond Percy Coltman was born in Ashby Magna in 1883. After attending school there, he left at an early age to work on the Great Central Railway. By 1903, he was renting a small building in Claybrook Magna. After forming a partnership with his brother, William Coltman, they founded the company Coltman Brothers. Coltman Brothers supplied timber for all kinds of purposes. They dealt with pit props, lagging and roofing timber for coal mines, both in the immediate area and also further afield. Coffin boards in oak and elm were sent to Coventry, Leicester, Manchester and Burnley, and trawler fishing bobbins were sent to Grimsby, Hull and Fleetwood. Railway wagon timbers were sent to Rugby, Crewe and Derby via the station at Ulsthorpe. It was a thriving business, one that changed the face of Claybrook completely. Just after World War II had started in the early 1940s, disaster struck. Coltman's mill was burnt down by a fire caused by a spark from a steam engine chimney. This happened on a Friday evening, but by the following Monday morning, the main machines were working again, powered by electricity. The quickness of this transformation from steam to electricity was made possible because at the time they were sending sawn amber to Grimsby for the construction of minesweepers. In the 1950s, Coltmans would construct a new mill on the opposite side of the road in a field at the back of the chapel we mentioned earlier. This would later become the main mill. Both mills continued in production until the early 1970s, at which point the old mill site, now Roman Close, was sold off and turned into housing. The Mallinson Denny group of companies would take over the newer site. Whitmores Timber had been part of that group since 1958, so now you can see how easy it was for them to move here. Coltman Brothers is still going. They never went out of business. Instead, they just moved. We've seen where they are already this week. They're now at the old station in Ashby Magna. At the end of Roman Close, there's a handy footpath which will bring us out on Bell Street, which takes its name from the third and final pub. On Bell Street today, you'll find a property called the White House. That's this building here. This is, according to what I could find about the Blue Bell, related to the old pub. Exactly how is a little unclear. There were some conflicting ideas in my source material, so there are two possibilities here. One is that the White House was the Blue Bell, and the other is that the pub was close to it and in some way owned by it, and it's now demolished. Whatever the case, the Blue Bell closed in the 1920s and was later used as a bakehouse. Bell Street remains the biggest clue to its once existence. Now we're heading east along Bell Street to find Holly Tree Walk, another dead-end cul-de-sac. It turns into a footpath at its end, and it's that we'll be needing next. Okay, we are on Holly Tree Walk. As you can see, it's not a fully paved road and it turns into a footpath at the end. And what this does is it goes across some fields now and takes us into Claybrook Magna's little brother. So I'll see you on the other side tomorrow. At the end of the street, the footpath starts to cross some fields. If you continue down it, you eventually reach the border between the Claybrook villages. It's still as rural now as this looks here. This part of the village has, for now at least, been untouched by any kind of modern development. And if you come back tomorrow, you can see me complete this walk in the other Claybrook, the much smaller village of the two. In that episode, we'll be discussing Claybrook Hall and a church, as well as Alma Park on the A5. See you on the other side of the border in 24 hours. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.